never thought I'd say this, but the worst day of my life started at the DMV. Not just any DMV either, the one on Broadway in Albany, New York. You know the one? That brutalist concrete slab of a building that looks like it was designed to crush hope. It was a Tuesday, I think. Overcast, the kind of gray that seeps into your bones. I was there to renew my license. My old one had a picture of me from 10 years ago, a kid with stupid hair and a dumb, hopeful grin. I looked like a different person. Felt like my girlfriend Vanessa had come with me for moral support, or maybe just to make sure I actually went. She was leaning against the grimy cinderblock wall, scrolling through her phone, one foot propped behind her. She was wearing these tight black jeans and a simple gray sweater, but on her, it looked like a fashion spread. The way the fabric hugged her hips, the curve of her waist. I caught myself staring, my eyes tracing the line from her shoulder down to the gentle swell of her backside. It was a distraction from the soul-crushing fluorescent lights and the smell of cheap disinfectant and despair. This is worse than I remembered, I muttered, shifting my weight on the hard plastic chair. The waiting area was a sea of slumped shoulders and dead eyes. Number B114. They were currently serving B47. We were gonna be here a while. Vanessa looked up from her phone, her lips, always glossed, always a perfect kissable shade of pink, curved into a sympathetic smile. It's an adventure, Mark. Think of it as people watching. Her eyes, a warm hazel, crinkled at the corners. I felt a stupid, possessive surge of pride. She was way out of my league, and everyone in this miserable room knew it. An older man a few seats down was blatantly staring at her legs, at the way her jeans stretched taut over her thighs. I felt a flicker of anger, immediately followed by a shameful voyeuristic thrill. Yeah, look at what I have. To distract myself, I pulled out my own phone. No service. Of course. The Albany DMV is a black hole for cellular signals. The only thing to do was wait. And wait. The air was thick with the sound of sniffling, coughing, and the low, monotonous drone of a bureaucrat somewhere calling out numbers. After what felt like an hour, my number finally blinked on the ancient LCD screen. B114. I stood up, my knees cracking. Wish me luck. Vanessa gave my hand a quick squeeze. Her fingers were warm. Go get him, Tiger. Try not to look like a felon in the picture. I walked toward the numbered stations, a long row of cluttered desks shielded by bulletproof glass. The clerk at my assigned window, B14, was a woman in her late 50s with tired eyes and a name tag that read Dolores. She didn't look up as I approached, just pointed a finger at the chair opposite her. I sat down, sliding my paperwork through the metal slot at the bottom of the glass. She took it without a word, her fingers moving with a weary, practiced efficiency. She typed for a minute, the click-clack of the keys unnaturally loud in the hushed atmosphere. Need to verify some information, she mumbled, her voice raspy from a lifetime of not wanting to be here. She picked up her handset, pressed a few buttons, and held it to her ear. A faint, tinny ringing echoed from the earpiece. Then her expression changed. It was subtle. A slight tightening around her eyes. A faint frown. She listened for a moment, then lowered the handset. Systems acting up, automated line. Just listen and confirm the info it gives you. She pushed the handset through the slot to me. It was an old, cream-colored phone, the cord coiled like a tired serpent. The receiver felt greasy. I put it to my ear. A calm, synthesized female voice was speaking. It sounded like the default text-to-speech voice on an old GPS devoid of any human inflection. Please listen carefully as our menu options have changed, it was saying. Your social security number ends in 4-2-8-1. Confirm, press 1. Your current address is 1847 Madison Avenue, apartment 3B. Confirm, press 2. Your eye color is listed as hazel. Confirm, press 3. I glanced up at Dolores. She was staring at her monitor, her face a blank mask. This seemed weirdly invasive, even for the DMV. I pressed 1, 2, and 3 on the keypad. The buttons were mushy, unresponsive. There was a long pause on the line, filled with a soft, digital hiss. I was about to pull the phone away from my ear when the voice returned. Your life expectancy has been calculated based on state and federal health data archives. The voice stated, its placid tone utterly at odds with the words. Your confirmed date of death is November 12, 2024. The time of death is 3:17 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. To confirm, Press 1. To speak to a representative about your life expectancy, please stay on the line. I froze. The receiver felt suddenly cold against my ear. A prank. It had to be. Some stupid glitch in their system. A sick joke. November 12th was just over a year away. I'd be 20-9. My eyes flicked to Dolores. She was still looking at her screen, but her posture was rigid, her fingers were frozen above the keyboard. She knew that she'd heard this before. Hello? I said into the phone, my voice hoarse. Hello? There was a click, and then a different, slightly less synthetic voice came on the line. Male this time. Thank you for holding, your case is noted. A representative will be with you shortly to facilitate. Then a dial tone. A loud, blaring buzz. Slowly I lowered the phone. My hand was trembling. I placed the receiver back in its cradle on my side of the glass. Dolores finally looked at me. Her eyes were wide, full of something that looked like pity and deep, ingrained fear. Did you? I began, but my throat was too dry. The phone. It said, everything in order? She interrupted, her voice sharp, a little too loud. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She snatched my paperwork and began stamping it with a violent, jerky motion. No, it's not in order, I said, leaning closer to the glass, my voice dropping to a whisper. It told me, it said the date I was going to die. Her head snapped up, the fear in her eyes was now outright terror. Sir, I need you to proceed to the photo station. Next in line, please, she barked, looking past me to the endless queue. But, photo station, down the hall to the left, have a nice day. The finality in her voice was absolute. She was already waving the next person over, a man who looked like he'd given up on life decades ago. I stood there, numb, my legs like blocks of wood. I stumbled away from the window, back into the main waiting area. The world seemed too bright, too sharp. The fluorescent lights hummed like a swarm of insects. The sound of a baby crying grated on my nerves. Vanessa was still by the wall, but she wasn't on her phone anymore. She was talking to someone. A man. He was tall and gaunt, dressed in a dark, ill-fitting suit that looked like it belonged to another era. His skin was pale, almost waxy, and his hair was a nondescript shade of brown, combed neatly to the side. He was standing just a little too close to her, his posture unnaturally still. He wasn't smiling. He was just looking at her. And Vanessa was smiling back, that polite, slightly uncomfortable smile she used with pushy salesmen or lonely uncles at family functions. I felt a hot spike of irrational jealousy, cutting through the cold dread that had taken root in my gut. I walked over, my footsteps echoing too loudly in my own ears. Vanessa? Everything okay? She turned to me, relief flashing in her eyes. Mark? Hey, this is, she glanced back at the man. Mr. Albright, the man said. His voice was soft, dry, like pages turning in an old book. He extended a hand. His fingers were long and thin, the nails perfectly clean and trimmed. I took it. His grip was cool and firm, but utterly lifeless. It felt like shaking hands with a mannequin. I couldn't help but overhear your number called. B. 114. They always make you wait, don't they? I dropped his hand quickly. Yet it's a nightmare. I put my arm around Vanessa's waist, pulling her slightly toward me. A possessive gesture. She felt warm and solid against me, an anchor in a suddenly tilting world. I could feel the curve of her hip under my palm. The mundane, human desire I felt for her was a bizarre counterpoint to the icy fear Mr. Albright inspired. Indeed, Mr. Albright said. His eyes were a pale, watery blue. They didn't seem to blink enough. They drifted over me, then back to Vanessa, lingering on the line of her neck. A necessary inconvenience, I suppose, for the privilege of operating a motor vehicle. He said the words, operating a motor vehicle, with a strange, formal precision, as if he'd learned the phrase from a manual. Well, we have to get to the photo station, I said, my tone curt. I started to guide Vanessa away. Of course, Mr. Albright said. He didn't move. He just stood there, watching us go. I could feel his gaze on my back, a cold spot between my shoulder blades. Who the hell was that? I whispered to Vanessa as we turned the corner. I don't know, she said, shuddering slightly. He just appeared, started asking me about the wait time, then about where I was from. It was weird, Mark. He smelled like old paper and mothballs. The photo station was its own special kind of hell. A bored teenager with face piercings waved me into the booth. Look at the red light, he monotoned. That I tried to force a smile, but my face felt stiff. All I could see in my mind was the calm digital voice. November 12, 2024.3:17 a.m. The flash went off, capturing my panic and confusion for the next decade. When it was over, we practically fled the building, bursting out into the damp Albany air. It felt like escaping a tomb. I took deep, gulping breaths, the cold air burning my lungs. Okay, what is going on with you? Vanessa asked, stopping on the sidewalk and turning to face me. Her brow was furrowed with concern. You've been white as a sheet since you left that window. Did something happen? Was the clerk a nightmare? I looked at her, at the genuine worry in her beautiful face. How could I tell her? It sounded insane. A phone line at the DMV told me I was going to die. That she'd think I'd cracked under the pressure of bureaucracy. It was just really stressful, I lied, forcing a shaky smile. Dolores is a real piece of work. Let's just get out of here. I drove us back to my apartment on Madison Avenue, my hands gripping the wheel too tightly. Every stoplight felt interminable. I kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting to see a dark sedan following us, or the pale, gaunt face of Mr. Albright in the back seat. The streets of Albany, usually just familiar and slightly shabby, seemed menacing. The bare trees clawed at the gray sky. A shopping cart rattled across an empty parking lot with a sound like bones shaking. Back in the apartment, I poured myself a large whiskey, downing half of it in one go. The burn felt good, real. Vanessa curled up on the couch, kicking off her shoes. She tucked her feet underneath her, and I found myself staring at her bare ankles, the delicate bones, the faint blue veins beneath her skin. It was such a vulnerable human detail. A sign of life. My mind, traitorously, tried to picture those same ankles cold and still. 3:17 m. I shook my head, trying to dislodge the thought. You're sure you're okay? She asked softly, patting the space next to her. I sat down, sinking into the familiar cushions. I wanted to lose myself in her, to use the physical reality of her to blot out the digital prophecy. I put my hand on her knee, feeling the firm muscle beneath the soft denim. I leaned in and kissed her, harder than I meant to. She kissed me back, but then pulled away slightly. Whoa, hey, easy tiger, she said with a gentle laugh, placing a hand on my chest. You're kind of freaking me out. DMV PTSD is real, huh? I rested my forehead against hers, closing my eyes. Sorry, just glad to be home with you. We ordered Thai food and tried to watch a movie, but I couldn't concentrate. The words from the phone kept replaying in my head, on a loop. November 12, 2024.3:17 a.m. I pulled out my phone. I had service now. I opened a note-taking app and typed the date and time. I stared at it. 11/12/24.03:17. What's that? Vanessa asked, peering over my shoulder. Her hair brushed against my cheek, smelling of coconut shampoo. Nothing, I said, quickly locking the screen. Just a reminder to call my mom. She gave me a look that said she didn't believe me but let it drop. The movie droned on. I couldn't tell you what it was about. Later that night, as Vanessa slept beside me, I lay awake. The digital clock on my bedside table glowed red. 2:48 a.m. 3:17 was getting closer. Every minute that ticked by felt like a countdown. I watched the numbers change. 2:49.2:50. I listened to Vanessa's breathing, deep and even. In the faint light from the window, I could see the outline of her body under the sheets, the rise and fall of her chest. I focused on that rhythm, a testament that we were both here, both alive. My eyes traveled over the silhouette of her hip, the dip of her waist. The lust I felt was immediate and intense, a primal response to the fear of mortality. I wanted to wake her up, to lose myself in her warmth, to feel desperately, aggressively alive. But I just watched the clock. 3:16 a.m. My heart was hammering against my ribs. This was stupid. It was a prank. A coincidence. A system error. 3:17 a.m. The red numbers shifted. 3:18. Nothing happened. The apartment was silent except for Vanessa's breathing and the low hum of the refrigerator. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. A shaky, relieved laugh escaped my lips. Of course it was nonsense. I was an idiot for letting it get to me. I rolled over, finally feeling like I might be able to sleep. and that's when I heard a faint scratching sound. That it was coming from the front door. That it wasn't loud. That it was subtle, like someone gently dragging a fingernail back and forth across the painted wood. Asterisk scritch, scritch, pause, scritch. Asterisk I sat bolt upright, my blood running cold. Vanessa stirred but didn't wake. Asterisk scritch, scritch. Asterisk I slid out of bed, my feet cold on the hardwood floor. That I crept out of the bedroom and down the short hall to the front door of my apartment. The scratching stopped. That I stood there, barely breathing, staring at the dark shape of the door. The peephole was a dark eye. That I didn't want to look through it. That I didn't want to know. Silence. Maybe it was a tree branch? But there were no trees near my front door. A stray animal? It didn't sound like an animal. That I had to know. That I leaned forward, slowly, and put my eye to the peephole. The hallway was empty, the ugly floral carpet stretched away, deserted, and then a figure stepped into view from the side, right up to the door, filling the fisheye lens completely. It was Mr. Albright. His pale, expressionless face was distorted by the glass, his features bloated and stretched. But his eyes were the same, pale, watery, and utterly focused. That he was staring directly into the peephole, as if he knew I was on the other side. That he wasn't blinking. That he lifted one of his long, thin fingers. That he placed the tip of it against the door, right where the peephole was on his side. And he began to scratch, asterisk scritch, 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 star. I stumbled backward, my heart trying to punch its way out of my chest. That I crashed into a small table by the door, sending a bowl of keys clattering to the floor. The scratching stopped. That I stood there, trembling, waiting. That I heard nothing. No footsteps walking away. No sound of the elevator. Nothing. After a full minute of terrifying silence, I forced myself to look through the peephole again. The hallway was empty. He was gone. That I spent the rest of the night on the couch, a baseball bat leaning against the armrest, staring at the front door. That I didn't sleep. Every creak of the old building made me jump. That I was certain I could still smell it, that faint scent of old paper and mothballs seeping under the door. The next morning I felt ragged. Vanessa woke up and found me on the couch. "What are you doing out here? Did you have trouble sleeping?"